Well, hello there, friends and lovers, and thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir.
Hello.
And we are glad you are here. Already see you in the chat, and that is good to see. Please, if you're listening live, join us in the chat. I want to hear your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions. We're going to go from the most abstract wisdom to the most concrete news of the day. We've got to do a little of both. On this fine, well, where are we at? It's January 25th. The 25th, the day of the year. After today, there are 340 days left to get through it. No, to make this your best year yet. And we're going to do everything we can to help you make that a reality. We're going to talk about reality today.
Reality. Woo!
More so than usual. You've got 334 shopping days until Christmas. 279 days to pick out your next Halloween costume. 54 days until spring, and...
Oh, somebody says sound.
Sound? Is there no sound? Let's see. I'm seeing sound.
Oh, no. It was Apollo's device.
Yeah, I think one person on their end. Yes, you let us know. They're a level.
No,
I do appreciate the input on our inputs. Let us know if you see any issues. But in this case, yes, I think it was a PIBCAC. That was one of our old IT acronyms. Problem is between the keyboard and the chair.
Are you using your CD player as a drink
holder? That's right. I can't get the drink holder on my computer to open up. What did I say? 54 days until spring, and 1,000, just 1,000. 1,000 isn't that much. 1,092 days until January 21st, 2029. I don't know if I should include that or not. It's a happy thought to me, but damn, it's an awful long time too. And on this date, January 25th, the first Winter Olympics. Huh. Yeah, I haven't been following that, but my keyboard player is a big fan of the Winter Olympics. So, Mark, I hope you enjoy the first day of the Winter Olympics. The original one was at Chamonix, or if you're American, you probably say Chamonix. Chamonix in the French Alps, way back in 1924. If you are a fan of the Winter Olympics, tell us in the chat, what's your favorite event?
Figure skating.
Figure skating. That's pretty hard to beat, isn't it? But,
so beautiful.
It could be bobsleds. It could be, more action, less grace.
Snowboarding,
yeah. Or just, alpine skiing, downhill skiing, which I haven't done in years now. Man, we got to get out there skiing.
It's because I can't do it.
You could do it. I know you're not about ice skating anymore. That's not going to happen. But skiing, I know we'll get you on the bunny hill. How can you resist?
Nope.
Something called a bunny hill.
Nope.
Speaking of bunnies, we've got to talk about the film Zootopia too. But since that ties in with our topic for the day, or a couple of our topics for the day, we'll hold off just a bit and go right to 1949. This was the day on which the first Emmy Awards ceremony took place. So I looked it up. The Emmys are like the Academy Awards, but for television. Mm-hmm. And the first Emmy Awards only included shows produced specifically in Los Angeles County, California, and aired in the Los Angeles media market in order to be eligible to win. So I thought, well, that might limit it. But what was the most popular show back then? Pantomime Quiz. Initially titled Pantomime's Quiz Time, and later Stump the Stars. I think I've heard of Stump the Stars. It was like a charades game with stars. I don't know. I'm not quite old enough for that one. I do remember Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
Those were the days.
Paul Lund, I do believe.
Paul Lund, yeah. Paul Lund usually had the center square. He was usually the sassiest guy in the 9 squares. Some of the people there, I don't even know what they ever did other than be on Hollywood Squares, but they were all actors and actresses. I don't think we have actresses anymore. We talk about female actors now. But jump forward to 1980, and this was the day, January 25th, 1980, when Paul McCartney is released from a Tokyo jail and deported from Japan.
Oh. He was buffeted with the
the
oregano.
cannabis, the oregano. Who put the oregano in the sensimilla? Yeah. And as of now, recreational and medical cannabis is still largely illegal in Japan. You know, I'm not a big fan of marijuana, but the idea of having it be illegal just seems like ridiculousness to me. I, of course, am an advocate of legalizing all recreational drugs, and that is a point that one could argue, would that make things worse or better? Hint, it would make them better. But cannabis? Let's see. Through a law passed in late 2023, so just a couple years ago, allowing medical cannabis and hemp cultivation strictly regulated for industrial purposes. Come on, Japan. Lighten. I can't believe you threw Paul McCartney in jail for that.
Who does that? What year was that?
I know. And you know, I think Japan is like amazing and wonderful, and the Japanese people are awesome, but
wonderful.
What the hell even? So, yeah. Oh, we have to talk about the weather in the chat. Yeah, we are broadcasting to you live from Motown.
Snowtown.
It is Snowtown. We're not getting
6 inches or so.
Yeah, we're not getting as much as the folks just south of us or the folks way north of us, but we are getting our share. And
yeah, it says 14 degrees, snow showers, feels like 4 degrees.
Feels like 4. Well, I mean, it was below 0 the last couple of days, so I'm going to call 14 a heat wave.
Yeah.
Total heat wave.
Tomorrow's high is 16. Even better.
Nice. And on this date, it is the birth date of Etta James, at last. Let's see, we just lost her in 2012 at the age of 73, so put on a copy of At Last, or just her greatest hits. It is the birthday of somebody still with us. Well, not with us, but over there, hopefully with us, hopefully on our side, or we're on his side. Vladimir Zelensky, with 2 Y's at the end, is 48 years old today.
Oh, happy birthday, Vladimir Zelensky.
And he went the Javier Milei route in that he was an entertainer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other world leaders besides Javier Milei and Vladimir Zelensky who were like on television before taking over their country.
Well, Ronald Reagan, but that's...
Ronald Reagan. I know, I've got somebody else in mind. I guess he doesn't really count because we're talking about leaders, and that's not the kind of leadership I want to celebrate today. It's also Alicia Keys' birthday, and it's Happy Fluoride Day.
Yes.
In which we celebrate water fluoridization.
Yay!
Except that nowadays our brainworm in chief is trying to remove the fluoride from our water. And here's the thing. I'm actually okay with that. Or rather, I'm okay with it happening, not so much who's doing it and why he's doing it, but yeah, I don't think that ever should have been government mandated. And since the public water supply is government controlled, the less they do, the better. Now, of course, that means you're actually going to have to get your kids to brush their teeth. And
I really don't know how much fluoride in the water system actually helps your teeth. I mean, it's not like we're constantly gargling or swishing. We're drinking, and that just kind of bypasses the teeth.
For mentioning it on the show, I did look it up, and there are competing studies. Go figure that some folks say it does nothing. Some folks say, no, look at these numbers. My guess would be that it probably does have a positive impact. Does it outweigh perhaps any effects of running fluoride through your system every day? It's hard to say. And as you suggest, a lot of folks aren't drinking tap water anyway.
Right.
And bottled water is such a big thing, or highly filtered water. We use NSF 53 level filters, and that takes an awful lot of stuff out of your water.
True that. Now,
so I'm going to stick with my impression, which is, even though I'm no big fan, that's an understatement, of RFK Jr. and the worms that are eating his brain. Little Pink Floyd reference there. No, actually, that's a reality reference, isn't it? I'm still all for, get the government out of that. They don't need, we'll get our kids to brush their teeth with a nice fluoride toothpaste, and laissez-nous faire. Let us handle it. But Happy Fluoride Day for those of you who are thinking about fluoride toothpaste and not about government mandates, like me.
No, I'm all for fluoride in toothpaste, but
good. And before I go on to the news, because the news is I got to mention Zootopia, which I'm connecting to the news. What's going on in our chat? Because I know they were talking about the snow.
Well, Gary says, there goes my fluoride stock investments.
Oh, no. Yeah, right. Would that be your Alcoa investment? The story is told that, and it was on Wikipedia, so it must be true.
So
there was a dentist who noticed that he had a lot of people in his community with brown teeth syndrome. Their teeth were discolored. But they were also absent cavities. And it turns out that because the Aluminum Corporation of America, Alcoa, was nearby, and one of their industrial waste products was a lot of fluoride, the water supply there had intense concentrations of fluoride, and it was actually keeping people from getting cavities, but also turning their teeth brown.
Wow.
So the conclusion was, well, if we could get it down to, 0.0004% of the water instead of whatever heavy industrial waste version of it. Now, the crazy thing is, I didn't mean to get into this, but I have to get into this. People like our current Secretary of Health and Human Services, whatever his title is, Mr. Brainworm, and his minions, meaning his fans, meaning any of you who are on his side. No, I don't mean to say that. Not you. But folks are passing around the usual memes. We live in a meme world, and the memes are saying that fluoride in your water is because big corporations want to make money off of their industrial waste. Fluoride does not come from industrial waste. It may be an industrial byproduct, but the idea that, they're just wanting to put trash in our water is just bizarre and not really honest. So Anyway, again, I'm not on RFK's side. I'm on that side of the argument. Yeah, get it out of the water. Let's just have water with the right recipe. And, to me, the recipe is 2 parts hydrogen for every part oxygen, and that should be just about it.
Yeah.
So, again, happy Fluoride Day. What else is going on? That's worms are to you all. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Gary.
Let's see. What else?
Somebody converted to Judaism, or Judoism, as some folks say. Who converted to Judaism? Did RFK do that? Anyway, no.
I don't know. I think Christopher is being facetious, perhaps.
Yeah, it's Christopher Smith. He tends to be a bit of a joker, so.
Yeah, and his birthday is tomorrow, so I bet he's even more jokey.
Jose Roberto is in the house, and since I mentioned Javier Milei, Jose Roberto, I think he goes by Roberto when he's just hanging with his peeps.
Yeah.
Which is a great name, of course, Robert Roberto.
Yes.
Can't really beat that name. Can give you the down low on Javier Milei, because as much as he looks like, some libertarian hero to us in the States, Roberto knows better, and he's looked into it. And he's, I was joking about having a world leader who was also a television entertainer. We have that here in the States. And I think Roberto's in a position to compare him to our current DJ Preezy McApprentice guy.
I never thought of Preezy
as an entertainer. That's because you didn't find him entertaining.
Preezy Orange Bag as an entertainer. I always thought of him as a game show host.
Well, that's an entertainer, though, right? Wouldn't you call Bob Barker an entertainer?
No.
Just game show host.
Game show host.
Different from
Alex Trebek, game show host, okay. But I wouldn't put that, no. Those are two different worlds.
Not entertainment. Okay.
No.
All right, I'm good with that. And I didn't want to get into it quite in that way, because I know that some of you good people out there are, let's say, more respectful of the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue than we are. But Robert and Amy take on the news. We've got to do our news segment. And The first item in the news segment, if you've already looked at the show notes in the YouTube description or the description on Facebook, and if you're listening to this afterward in the podcast, do listen to or look at those descriptions, because there are links to all the things we talk about, and maybe even things we don't talk about, and all sorts of good stuff. But Yeah, we went and saw Zootopia 2 last night. Basically,
Yes.
we had a big day out.
Big day out.
It was -2 degrees, but we went to the botanical gardens, interior, greenhouse, beautiful
Yes.
place to be.
The Mathau Botanical Gardens in Ann Arbor, and it was
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Before going home and cloistering ourselves against the weather, except we enjoyed that so much, we went to the Moonwalk Cafe in Dixboro.
Moon Wink.
Moonwinks.
Moon Wink.
Moonwinks Cafe.
Yeah, so cute.
And then we're like, no, let's not go home yet. So we went to the movies, and then we even went to the bookstore afterward.
Yeah.
But the movie we saw was Zootopia 2.
Yes.
Now, if you've seen the first Zootopia, you know it's a very charming animated Disney film. It was really cute, but also clever and heartening and pretty damn cool. So we decided to see Zootopia 2, which is reviewing well. We thought, well, if it's reviewing well, maybe it will compare favorably to the first one.
And it's in the theaters. Like, it's been in the theaters for weeks, so it's been doing really good.
Yes. In fact, the link that I put in the show description, if you follow that, will tell you that in 2 days it comes to streaming. Mm-hmm. So if you've got Disney Plus, or if you're at a friend's house who has Disney Plus, you can watch that film day after tomorrow. But we didn't wait, because it's nothing like seeing it on a big screen with a big bowl of popcorn. And there is a scene in the film in which the protagonists, who I think in the first film were more the protagonist and the antagonist, but the protagonists are chasing bad guys, and they reach a point where, they almost drown, like, to death. And if they go any further, their lives are at risk, and it's just gotten crazy. And one of them is gung-ho anyway. We're like, well, we're that close to, catching bad guys and solving this problem and, doing whatever. Trying not to give spoilers. And the other one's like, this is crazy. We just almost died. And if we keep this up, we're probably not going to live through this. At some point, you got to know when to stop. And it's an important scene in the film, and it leads to some later scenes that relate to that. And it brought up for me this question of, wait a minute. At what point do you take big, big risks? Think about people in the army, people who go away to war, knowing there's a chance they could die, but they love what they do. They love that job of being a fighter and fighting for something that matters, for their own freedom, for their country, for their families, for people they care about. At what point does it make sense to actually put your life on the line? And it came up in a news story, which apparently I don't have.
Well, what's it? Yeah.
It was, there was a podcaster in Turkey, I think.
Oh.
Who's fighting against the Muslim authorities. And she was on some other show, and somebody asked her, the host of the show asked her, well, are you a Zionist? And this gal, she answered, well, yes, of course I am.
Yes, Turkish Muslim student faces arrest, death threats after calling herself Zionist.
Right. And yeah, ever since going on that show and saying that, she's been in hiding.
Oof.
And it just reminded me of that scene in Zootopia. And it reminded me of what's going on in Minnesota. And it reminded me of all the people who said in response to this gal in Turkey, why did you say that? What's wrong with you? Why would you say what you really think when it puts your life at risk? Why would you stand up for your beliefs if it's just going to put your life at risk? Why would you fight for what's right if it's just going to put your life at risk? And our topic tonight is the Tao or Tao of Rand, the wisdom of Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand talks about how life is not for living at any price, but only a proper life of a human being. And if you can't live that kind of life, then life is not worth living. Pragmatism is not a valid philosophy, whatever it takes to get through the day. That values and ethics, that your own integrity matters. So it was very quirky that came up in a Disney film yesterday. Why would you stand up for yourself if it's going to get you killed? Why don't you just keep silent, obey, behave yourself, and then you can go on to fight another day because you lived. I'm not suggesting that it's necessarily cowardice to show prudence. But at some point, you got to stand up for what you believe.
Right.
Otherwise, what are you going to do afterward?
So I guess with regard to the woman, her name is Avsi, aspiring journalist Avsi. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Turku Avsi.
And so what happened was there was a TRT journalist, I don't know what TRT means, a news outlet, who wrote conspiracy theories about her, saying that she was an Israeli agent, and all of this stuff. So basically, they didn't necessarily dox her, but they wrote all kinds of things that were not true about her. And then they found out her ID, her Turkish number, and it was all over social media.
Yeah, they doxed her.
Yeah. So first they did the conspiracy theory, and then they doxed her.
Yep.
And yeah, so now she is in hiding. She thought it was all going to blow over, but and hopefully maybe it will. I don't know, but Turkey is not the secular country it was 20 years ago.
No. Exactly right.
But with those things, and with Zootopia 2, yeah, there were some plot points with regard to do you risk your life to to save the people that you love, for instance, or to come out and actually tell people what you think so that you can encourage the other people around you who are like-minded, who need the strength, who need the encouragement. And if you publicly say and speak honestly that that's what's going to happen, and that's a worthy thing to have, it's a worthy thing to do. There's actually another, and I don't think it was done by Disney, but there were some people quoting from the movie Ants. I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, Ants came out, it was a CGI animation movie, and it came out right before A Bug's Life, which I think was Disney or Pixar. Anyway, Ants came out, and we watched it, and I was really astounded at its themes, basically its theme of individualism versus collectivism.
Yes, the individualist in an ant colony, where individualism, of course, is the opposite of what they live. Yeah, that's. I remember enjoying the theme of that film at the time. We should watch that again.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, and I think Bug's Life was a little bit like that, but it was a little bit not as hardcore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. Linda Corderas in the chat and says, standing up is paramount. Well, nobody would know better than you, Linda.
Yes.
Standing up for your rights, standing up for what you believe is paramount, 100%.
Yeah, and sometimes it gets to the point where you can't live with yourself anymore unless you do speak up, where people have had enough. And like the folks in Minnesota right now. But we can get into that later. But anyway, Zootopia 2 was excellent. You should go see it, take a break. And I'll tell you what, I took Facebook off of my phone, so I'm not doom scrolling on my phone anymore, which is a really big relief. I only take, a certain, like an hour or so a day, and I doom scroll on my laptop.
Well, the advantage there, besides that, is it's easier on your laptop to actually engage with the stuff you're scrolling with.
Yeah, and type.
You've got a keyboard there. You can.
Yeah.
You're not trying to voice to text or tap on your phone.
Exactly.
I think that's a great idea, is to say, I'll still do Facebook, but only when I'm sitting at a computer and actually, able to engage. And
I've been sharing a lot of things on my Facebook wall. One of them is if you go to standwithminnesota.com, you'll see it's really amazing. It's a DIY, it's not supported by like a Democratic PAC committee or something. It's completely mutual aid society, DIY flavored everything. And there's There's food support for people. There's even pet and animal support for people. There's a diaper fund. There's funds for schools and students. And, and then there are funds for specific organizations. I was looking at Safe Haven, which says here that if there are citizens who are kidnapped by ICE, the usual thing where they get taken away for a day or two and they're in the Whipple facility and they're not charged with anything, but they have been beaten up. Then they come out and their cell phones are taken and basically stolen and sold by the ICE agents, which happens. And they come out. Safe Haven will actually provide them a cell phone, provide them transportation, help them get their ID again, all of this stuff, and actually help them with trauma. I thought that was a really good one. But yeah, if you go to standwithminnesota.com, you can find out for yourself how you can help. And I highly recommend that. And call your reps tomorrow. I'll be doing that.
And you can find that information on Amy's Facebook wall. If you're not already friends with her, you know what to do. Quick question from Jose Roberto. What do you think about the only way to save the West is to return to Judeo-Christian values? Well, you probably know what I think about that, but Jose Roberto points out Millet said that at the World Economic Forum. From the outside, we think, well, compared to what was going on in Argentina, this guy's practically a libertarian, almost an anarchist. He's called himself that before. That's pretty cool. He's our kind of guy. Yeah. But this idea that, well, wait, you're gonna save the country through Judeo-Christian values are what got you in trouble in the first place. Yeah. So I would say to Javier Milei the same thing that I would say to the contemporary right in America. It's even more bizarre that they managed to mix that in with somebody who is a 3-time divorcee and adulterer and criminal and all these other not really Judeo-Christian things, but bad enough, that Millet would say that at the WEF.
It's one of those Catholic things where you can go out and pillage and do all sorts of heinous things and then go over to your priest and go into the confession box.
Or if you've got the money, just buy indulgences.
You can buy indulgences. Or you can say 500 Hail Marys, 2,000 Our Fathers, and then you'll be absolved of your sins.
Yes, and you don't even have to buy indulgences. You just have to spend enough money on good works that you feel it. You feel the indulgences.
And the thing, this goes back to what we've talked about before. Look up when we've talked about altruism and how altruism is not an effective morality. Altruism is the standard of morality. It's just the other side doesn't do it, really. They're hypocrites. Yeah, tell me how that works out for you. Or maybe we'll tell you how that works out for us before we are done tonight. The other item that you'll see, if you look in the show notes under Robert and Amy Take on the News, is a New York Times story. And I already hear a lot of my friends saying, boo, yes, New York Times. The New York Times, they have issues. But this story is worth reading. The voters who have taken a U-turn on Trump. I talked about it last week when we did a very rare, almost all political episode. Now, I know we're getting kind of political tonight, but no, last week was crazy that way. We don't do politics on this show, not like that. But last week we had to. And this week we have to for almost the same reason, but we're only going to do a little. And then we're going to make a larger point. That story, the voters who have taken a U-turn on Trump. Here, I'm going to mute for just a moment here. Can't remember how to mute. So I'm just going to cough and annoy y'all. Sorry about that. But it's a hearty cough, a manly cough, an alpha cough, and we care about the alpha male these days. The voters who have taken a U-turn on Trump, there ain't that many of them. Well, there's, a measurable, like 5 to 10% as far as approval ratings go. As far as actual supporters, the numbers are smaller. The point I made last week is all we need is a little bit. And that happens. Our president sheds a few supporters every outrageous thing he does because he sheds different people with each new outrage. The people who, for example, their big issue was pedophilia in politics,
he shed a few of them over the Epstein refusal to release that information. The people whose big deal is Second Amendment, he loses just a few of them when he passes, bump stock legislation. Or he doesn't lose 1% or 5%. He loses a fraction of a percent. But every new thing sheds a few more. Well, this story in the New York Times bears that out. So take a look. It's linked as a gift article using my subscription, so you don't need a subscription to the NYT website in order to read that story. The voters who have taken a U-turn on Trump. To quote the genie in Disney's Aladdin, he can be taught. Yes, those folks can change their minds.
Yeah, and there are a number of, and one other thing, when you call your reps tomorrow or you write them, find out who your congressional representatives are and also find out who the Republicans are, who, especially the ones who are turning their backs against Trump now with regard to the second shooting in Minneapolis. Send them a note and say, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate you speaking out. Here's some words of encouragement for you. And here's how to save the world. And then put a paragraph in there about that in Ayn Rand. But there are people actually coming out. There are gun rights groups who are turning their backs and questioning finally what's going on. So good for them.
Yeah, on that topic of when does it make sense to be bold and brave and speak out versus holding yourself back for another day. Lucy on the Facebook side in the chat says, the individual may think the probability is small that they will be killed. Perhaps they think their reasoning will be enough to bridge the communication gap. And in irrational reality, it's not going to bridge the communication gap because those who steal one's life aren't interested in communicating. In fact, they'd like to prevent one from communicating. Lucy, I can't argue against that at all. It is interesting, that idea. The individual may think the probability is small that they will be killed. The probability is small that they will be killed. And that's part of the equation that you do when you decide whether you're going to speak out. And you do that equation all the time.
Yeah.
Your probability is very small that some crazy person is going to decide based on what you said on the internet that he's going to target you. He's going to dox you. He's going to try to get you fired. He's going to try to get you canceled. So you speak out. And yet that does happen to people. So you're right. The probability is very small that you're going to be like Renee Good, that you're going to end up dead because of a protest you participated in. But it happened once. And now it's happened twice. And does that mean out of the millions of people protesting, you decide, I'm not going to do it? Or are you willing to take that chance for what you believe, realizing that you're still more likely to get killed driving your car to the rally than you are to get actually shot by an ICE person? The outrage is quite right, even if the numbers are small. I don't mean to trivialize the matter. All I'm saying is the personal risk is such that it never stopped us from participating in protests, and we've never gotten up in the face of armed security people. I won't even call them law enforcement officers because that is an honor reserved for police and other people who follow due process and against whom you have some recourse if they mistreat you. But that is all part of that equation, yes. Yeah.
There's actually so there is an organization called Indivisible, like indivisible with liberty and justice for all. And they sent me something to sign up for. Basically, I'll be doing this tomorrow at 8:00. It's basically, let me see here. Where's you're registered? Sorry. Basically, it's like a Zoom call tomorrow at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, and they're basically going to talk about how to protest, how to know your rights. And so I'll learn a little bit more about what they have, they have to offer. It's something that I've talked about before in terms of being a constitutional observer, or a legal observer, and what your rights are, and recording police officers or recording well, these agents, I should say, federal agents.
I'll tell you, back when we were participating in protests against the previous president, no, not Biden, there was nothing really to protest with him. He was not that effective. But no, Barack Obama, we engaged with the right and we engaged with the left. And the reason you engage with the people who agree with you is to bolster support. And the reason you engage with people who don't agree with you, well, yeah, of course, you hope to change minds, but also you're registering numbers.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking there's no point in writing to Republicans, they're not going to listen. All they're going to listen to, in some cases, are the numbers.
Yes.
And your letter to them may just be one more tick, one more chicken scratch, one more number. And instead of 1,999 people who wrote to him telling him what a contemptible, that he was mistaken on the issue,
yeah,
it's now 2,000 or whatever that number turns out to be. So your voice matters.
And whatever you say to a person on the phone or however you write, convey yourself with intelligence and dignity, and make sure that they understand you're not just a checkbox, but you're an intelligent checkbox. You're watching them.
Yeah.
And you are speaking out. You can handle yourself intellectually. You understand why you're doing what you're doing. You understand what the rights are that you are fighting for, and that's how you do it. And it's so, yeah, it may just be numbers, but it's also important to.
It's everything has an impact.
Show that.
It might be butterfly effect, or it might be more direct. It might be that your Congress critter actually asks his aide, "Hey, what are the calls like today?" And the aide says, "Yeah, they were mostly junk." And your Congress critter says, "What about that one you spent like 5 minutes on the phone with?" "Oh yeah, she had something to say."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you will sometimes know the impact you had. You will often not know the impact you had. At a minimum, you will have gone through the process, so it will have an impact on you.
Yeah. And, and also remember that reaching out and engaging with other people is really fulfilling. It's actually rewarding, or it can be. And even if you find yourself up against somebody who you don't agree with, they can hear your voice, or they can see what you wrote, or you can convey something that might strike them. You never know. One of the things that the last time we went to a No Kings rally last summer, it said, thank you for attending this event. Let us know why you protested. And I actually responded back to them and I said, I'm protesting today on the chance that I might meet friendly, like-minded people, that I might remind people to read or reread Ayn Rand, that I might remind people to be more intellectual in their arguments, that I might tell and show that I'm an individual who has a right to her own life, that I might stand in the sunshine as a free human being and express my thoughts without punishment, that I will have a little fun speaking our minds and loving life. And reading that, just, I don't know, Amy of months ago, that's very inspiring. But you do it for values. You don't, you do it for your values. You fight for your values, and that's the way to do it, and you can have fun doing it.
Yeah, agreed. And we've got law experts both on the Facebook and on the YouTube side of things. Excellent. Between Steve and Nicholas, I think we're well represented there on the legal issues related to immigration and lots of other things. And Robin wants to know, did any kings attend? Probably, but if so, they weren't wearing a crown. They were they were on the down low.
Yeah, they deposed themselves
but
for that day.
But no, actually, I guess there would be no kings there. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, there would be no kings there. Very funny, Robin. Thank you.
Yes. Now, because what I originally wanted to talk about tonight is a related issue, really. At some point, this will become an essay. I will actually write about the Tao of Rand, the wisdom of Ayn Rand, because we always talk about the philosophy of Ayn Rand. Heck, Leonard Peikoff wrote the book on the subject, Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand. And philosophy and wisdom are not unrelated subjects, but If I asked you who is the world's foremost expert on objectivism, you would have an easy answer for that if you know anything at all about the history of Ayn Rand's philosophy. Some of you folks are not Ayn Rand fans and not objectivists, so just kind of follow along with us here. So if I ask you, foremost expert, most intelligent. But if I asked you this question, what would your answer be? Tell me in the chat if you have an answer. Mm-hmm. Who is the wisest man or woman in objectivism?
Oh my gosh.
You might still say Leonard Peikoff, depending on
the wisest,
how you construe the word wisdom.
I would say Robert Nasir, but
gosh,
I'm a little biased.
But seriously, because I know there are people out there who have approached this philosophy as a wisdom discipline, as a way of not just living better, but living more insightfully, more richly.
You know who comes to mind? And this is, not a lot of people know him because he's kind of on the down low, but every time I see something he writes, I'm like, yeah, that's really good, is Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers is really sharp that way.
Yeah. I like him. He is.
There are a few names out there, you're right, that come up when you think of wisdom.
Yeah.
Mark Conway Monroe comes up that way. John Paquette is often very wise in that regard. You know
who I like? And I keep forgetting. It's like Xenia.
Oh yeah, Xenia, who from Australia.
And I don't Xenia.
Her last name is a challenge to pronounce.
Iono.
And it's Xenia with an X, not a Z. Yeah.
Yes.
There are a bunch, and I don't want to name too many names because I don't want to leave people out. Some of you out there would belong on that list.
Yes.
But I am curious, and Apollo Zeus says Robin. Good. And Robin, of course, is in the chat. Steve agrees that John and Steve both belong on that list, too. And, and of course, Quent is very objectivism. I agree with that.
I agree with that,
Who was it who said that?
Linda.
Oh, that was Linda who said that. Yeah. But yes, you absolutely need to put in a vote for Quent. And, I've spent time with Linda, so I know she is wise as well.
Yes.
Looking at the Tao of Rand, and the reason I intentionally use a term from Eastern philosophy, from Zen Buddhism, is as crazy as Eastern philosophy is in its roots, its metaphysics, and its notion of the closer you can get to having no self, the truer you are to reality. I mean, just goofy stuff. I get it, but it's the opposite of Western ideals. But in some ways, I like the Zen approach more than other Western philosophies. So, for example, in Zen Buddhism, you have the idea of satori. A moment of sudden enlightenment, like you would get from reading a koan that gives you a perspective you've never had before and blows your mind. In the West, we would call that an epiphany, but not just intellectually. One that gives you that real psychological sense of something really profound. So the other question I would have is, have any of y'all had any of those moments? Mm-hmm. Have you ever had those moments of learning something in objectivism, or better yet, having previously learned it and then integrating it firsthand in your own thinking?
Yes.
Where you thought, this changes everything. Yeah. I feel like, I had a passing relationship with reality before, but now I really get it.
Oh, I can't name a particular instance, but with all the political stuff going on and with regard to a lot of things that are happening that are threatening our Bill of Rights right now, I see things that are like, I see a news report and I'm like, okay, this is what's going to end up happening now. And this is what's going to end up happening now. And this is what's going to end up happening now. And a week later it happens. And so my ability to predict future events is pretty on point right now. So I've got a crystal ball in objectivism.
Yeah. You're right. And that's been there kind of since the beginning. When I was young, first getting into objectivism, so what was I, oh, I don't know, mid-20s, they were already asking the question, it had been the title of a previous Ayn Rand talk, is Atlas shrugging? And they would compare all the plot points of Atlas Shrugged, 100 different things that happened in the book that matched what was happening in the world, and particularly in the United States. And I totally get that sense of, I can tell the future because I can now see what principles are driving what's happening. And so long as those same forces are in effect, you're going to get the same kind of results.
Yeah. Oh, and people are saying, don't forget about Harry Binswanger.
Yes, and
Yes.
Yaron and Harry, you can tell those guys live well, and they use these ideas in ways that show just firsthand integration of them. And so there's wisdom there. I don't really think of Yaron as a wisdom guy, but yeah, he actually is. Compare him to other objectivist intellectuals, and I won't name names, but people who are a little more
less worldly.
Less worldly.
That's a
good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yaron is worldly.
Yeah, he is worldly.
He has been around the world
Yeah.
in ways that go beyond geography.
Yeah, another person I like, I don't know if he would call himself an objectivist or not. I think he probably would. Is Nick Provenzo. Nick Provenzo and Stuart Margolis.
Yes, I don't know if you noticed, but Nick is actually in the chat
Yes.
on the Facebook side.
Hey, Nick.
And yeah, this is a guy who
We gotta
gets
talk
it,
soon.
and gets it, down to his toes, down to reality.
Yes.
Very, very cool. So I wanted to mention a few of my Satori moments. It kind of stops, I think Howard Rourke would call them, things that I realized that are in there. They're in the Tao of Rand, the philosophy of Ayn Rand, but aren't necessarily the takeaways that some folks get studying intellectually. So, for example, my top insights were that values are primary. What do you mean values are primary? Well, because you are here to live a life and not just not die. And that takes effort. You actually have to get things. You actually have to achieve things. You have to create before you can consume. And it's not that you have to grow your own food or build your own house, but you need to create their value equivalents and trade for those things. Nothing comes from nothing. Everything comes from thought and effort, and thought is primary. Rationality. So creation before consumption or cooperation or competition. I was talking about the 3 C's of capitalism: creation, cooperation, and competition, but creation is primary. Values are primary. Linda Cordair knows that probably better than anyone. We are here to live a life and not just to not die.
Yes.
So that to me was actually a powerful. Now you might think that's obvious, or you don't have to know it because you're going to do it anyway. Turns out by holding that attitude, that understanding, that perspective, you can create with greater clarity. You can enjoy the creation with greater pride, and you can live with enormous gratitude for the fact that everybody that you interact with, that you trade with, that you work with, that you have any contact with, is doing the same. You can do that, and you can take that not for granted. It also lets you understand your place in the world. The fact that you as an individual are primary. You are the creating force. Groups of people can get together, but groups of people don't value. They may have shared values, they may work in common toward those shared values, but the fact of valuing, the fact of something mattering is wholly individual. That is something that happens in your own mind, your own soul, your psychology, your emotional mechanism, your hierarchy of values is wholly individual. And this is entirely an objectivist point. Howard Rourke tells us you can share a meal, but you can't digest it in a collective stomach.
Right.
All of the most important and personal facts of human existence are individual. And any collective is only a group of individuals. Thought and valuing are wholly individual. It's also why I'm not too worried about the AI apocalypse, because things don't matter to machines, having not been created with any kind of pain or pleasure mechanism.
True.
Not even an analog of it. Now you could, I guess, program values into a machine, and then it might go haywire. And maybe that's a possibility, but I'm not sure an LLM, a large language model, will ever cause that. But in any event, whether we all die from AI or not.
As a side note,
even if the AIs go out of control and kill us all, that will only matter to each of us individually.
you're silly. Did you get to the point where Ayn Rand talks about how life is an end in itself?
I have not gotten to that point yet, but it is in my notes.
Good.
It says here, life is an end in itself.
Oh, it does it.
Or, as Ayn Rand put it, only man is an end in himself, not a group,
Yes.
not a country. Only an individual man can be, because again, that fact of valuing, that experience of something mattering, is something that only happens within an individual mind. I gotta find that mute switch, and I don't know how I've totally forgotten how to do that. Here, let me try this. Ah, there it is. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Excuse me while I clear my throat. Yes.
Yeah.
The wisdom of objectivism.
Yes.
You know, I've said before that everything is enough, that meaning comes from your experience in living a life surrounded by everything. Which sounds ridiculous. I mean, everything is enough. Well, because people want to find meaning or purpose in some other realm, whether it's religion or society or just this kind of vague ephemeralness or meaning from nothing, or Eastern philosophy friends might say. Meaning, like purpose, is chosen, and it has to be. If it was imposed on you, if somebody else came along and said, here's what your life means, here's what matters, here's your purpose in life, well, how would that be any less or even as objective as you figuring out, well, no, based on me, my psychology, my preferences, my nature, my hierarchy of values, my surroundings, my family, everything I care about, and the way that I operate, my style, the style of my soul, based on all of that, I want to be an architect. I want to be an entertainer. I want to be an inventor. I want to be an entrepreneur. I am going to do that which matches my drive, my soul, my desire, my values. How could somebody else coming along and say, hey, I've got even if it was, if you believe somehow in God, that there is this mega consciousness out there who knows all and sees all, how would that be any less subjective? How is it more satisfying if your father comes along, whether your dad at home or your father in heaven comes along and says, no, for your life to mean anything, here's what you should care about, here's what you should do. I can't think of anything that would be more subjective than that. It's not even based on you. No. Everything is enough. Purpose, meaning is chosen and individual.
And back to life isn't in itself. This is something that I contemplate every birthday that I have.
Uh-huh.
And so what happens is I go out into nature on my birthday. I go for a walk in the woods alone or with Robert sometimes. And I just contemplate my being, my existing, my conceptual nature, my awareness. And, whatever, if you want to call that Satori or Zen or however, or Tao, life isn't in itself.
Well, that is presence.
Presence.
Be where you are.
Yes.
Be who you are.
But just enjoying myself interacting with nature is such a pleasant experience. Something we did yesterday at the botanical gardens. But sometimes I kind of, especially on my birthday, I kind of close my eyes and just notice myself being here with myself. I don't know how else to explain it. And I'm just amazed by the fact that I am a cognitive entity. I'm self-aware. I'm aware of all these things going on around me. I have this whole database that's completely, integrating all the time and thinking and doing and experiencing and living all the time. And it's amazing. I wasn't always here. And I think about that. I think, before 1973, I didn't exist. And how is this? How can this be? And at some point in the future, I won't exist again. I'll go back to the same place I was before. But loving the fact that I do exist right now, loving the fact that I am awake right now, that I'm speaking to you, that I'm experiencing all of my five senses right now. It's just a wonderful thing. And my life is in and of itself, and my life has meaning and it has value. And it's just an amazing thing to contemplate. And it's very, very fulfilling, I'll just say. And if you are the kind of person who values deeply, you'll find that you like yourself. If you're honest, if you pursue your values, you find that you like yourself. If you find you go into a different situation that you've never been in before, and you have some stretch goals, and you find some confidence deep within yourself and some courage, and you're successful at the process, you like yourself. And all of those things, all those experiences add up into those moments where you can sit quietly by yourself and really enjoy being. That's how I experience that. So that's my Tao of Rand. Yes, here I am on fire again.
Now, on a related point, I have to say something. I don't think I've said this way before. And some of you may wonder if this is consistent with objectivism. So I'll tell you, this is just some firsthand thinking, but it relates to a friend of ours who was one of the inspirations for that essay that I wrote, Everything is Enough, talking about purpose and meaning. And this particular person did not experience happiness as the highest value, as purpose of life. We talk about the three highest values in objectivism are reason, purpose, and self-esteem, and that happiness is the standard of value, that everything that you do is either leading you to happiness or suffering, and you can live an integrated life consistent with your values, you achieve that state of happiness. And everything else that you want, and you want 100,000 other things in a rich and rewarding life, are to that end of achieving happiness. But thinking about it, I realized, surprisingly enough, that happiness, which has an objectivist definition, but it can mean different things to different people in this sense. For some people, a state of non-contradictory joy. Ayn Rand's description of happiness, a state of non-contradictory joy. That's not her definition, it's a description. The definition is happiness is that which achieves from the attainment of one's values. But for some people, a state of non-contradictory joy, it aligns with their purpose in life, but that's just one meaning of happiness. For other people, happiness is quiet. It's more a feeling of equanimity, mental calmness, composure, balance, or that passion that comes from making things, the world, more what they think it should be, making things right. And so I think so long as your desired state is consistent with the requirements of human life, happiness, that state which proceeds from the attainment of one's values, happiness is happiness. It doesn't always look like joy. It doesn't always look like passion. It doesn't always have a smile on its face. And I hope when folks hear me talking about happiness, as I'm sure I will many, many more times than this, that that comes through. I'm certainly not prescribing that everybody should be having a big silly grin on their face all the time or anything like that. And I've made that point when I've talked about toxic positivity before, and I'm sure I'll make it again. Yeah, I intentionally chose the yin-yang symbol there for our show thumbnail and even for our temporary title card there. Oh, I love that. Because again, as many common denominators as you can find between objectivism and previous philosophies, and in all the important ways it stands alone, it was just interesting to look at Zen, at Eastern philosophies, and think, well, they're very big, for example, on accepting reality as it is, not through wishful thinking or, your desires that it was different than it is, but, the primacy of reality. A is A. Reality exists independently. And, in Zen, reality is just this. A little too much acceptance of not changing it, but
yeah.
The mistake the Eastern mystics make is that they contrast apprehending reality directly with a reality filtered through concepts and broad abstractions. Well, no, that's how you integrate facts of reality.
Yes.
It's how you achieve a greater understanding of reality, not a perverted understanding of reality. So that very Zen idea, and we talked about presence. You could talk about mindfulness. Be where you are, which I always interpret as put down your damn cell phone and actually be with the people you're with.
Engage with people around you. You'll find that he might be surprised. It's really good.
Yeah. So in Zen, you have focus, and in Objectivism, you have focus, and your primary sin is to evade or to drift. In other words, not to focus. And Zen is like that, but
yeah,
because they regard concepts as a potential perversion, their idea of focus is very similar to our idea of not focusing, in the sense that they try to turn off that one type of thinking in order to achieve, probably to achieve what you achieve in the forest. And I think that's a mistake. But there is that common denominator of valuing the mind, of valuing focus and mindfulness and presence and being where you are and accepting that A is A and things are what they are. So again, I don't mean to say too much good about Eastern philosophy, but
yeah,
I find value in it, in some of the insights.
Yeah, I do too. And I think if you keep an eye toward the primacy of consciousness, and we've talked about this before, the primacy of consciousness versus primacy of existence. We're on the primacy of existence side of this. The idea of primacy of consciousness means that your consciousness itself can actually create material, or can create reality, or you can, it's a very dangerous perspective, because it's not true. And if you start believing it, you can do a lot of really harmful, destructive things. But the idea of just going in yourself, into yourself and meditating and thinking of nothing and try to find some kind of selflessness is a huge mistake.
Yes.
It's not only not true, you have a self. You should enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. Anyway, that's that song. But but yeah, it's the reason why I started. There's an app called Waking Up by Sam Harris, and I enjoy some of what Sam Harris has to say on his podcasts and such. I tried the trial, like the 7-day trial of it, and I had to cancel because he would say these crazy things like, okay, now observe your mental state, observe, thoughts coming up and then going back down, and going into this meditation kind of state. And I would listen to his meditations, and they were fine. They were like any other meditations, honestly, that you would find on like the Calm app or however. But he would say something absolutely crazy like,
observe that your thoughts come up with no initiative on your part. Realize that you are the passive recipient of your thoughts. When they come up and where they go, you're not driving.
Yeah.
There is no separate you controlling all of this.
And then I think to myself, what in the hell, knucklehead, are you even talking about? You're the one who is coming up with this meditation app and telling me to use my free will. Because again, Sam Harris denies the idea of free will. And I think that there's some confusion that he has. Maybe he'll figure it out. But you do have the power to control your thoughts. That's what meditation is about in the first place. I think, and again, I don't know for sure. Maybe if I ever meet him, I'll ask him this. But he thinks that free will means some kind of arbitrary mysticism or arbitrary power about getting yourself to feel a certain way or thinking a certain way.
Denial of physics.
And and when in Ayn Rand's view of free will, it means that you have the power of focus, which is what he uses in his app all the time. And
Sam could have created a good meditation app if he would keep his own personal philosophy out of it. But that's a contradiction. You can't do it. So
yeah.
Somebody needs to go to Sam and ask him, why do you say that you should realize there is no you? Wait, who should realize there is no
Yeah,
me?
Who should realize who?
And why do you tell people that you should choose to believe you have no faculty of choice?
Right.
You have no free will. You should choose determinism. Now, I know he has answers to those questions. He's not an idiot. But the answers are not rational. They're not satisfying. They make no sense. There's just no way around those contradictions. I'm sorry if some of you out there think that volition, that free will, contradicts the facts of physics, that you want everything to be a mechanistic universe. And this one thing seems not to be. Sorry about that. But there is no way around all of the contradictions that arise if you try to say, no, I have no volition. Even these words coming out of my mouth are wholly determined by physics, by my body and my brain. There is no actual thought being expressed here. I am just saying the mumbo jumbo, and the jumbo mumbo is the mumbo jumbo.
Right.
How can people believe that? Well, because they've decided physics says stuff operates mechanistically, and so if you believe in volition, you're accepting mysticism.
No.
Sorry. But
volition is focus. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you special knowledge or superpowers or innate ideas. It's not that. It is focus. It is the ability to make yourself aware of your own consciousness.
Right. As the great Eve Layton would say, it's self-evident.
Eve Layton.
Eve Layton. She's the day after tomorrow. Sorry, fans of the Fountainhead will know the great Eve Layton, poor Mitch's wife.
Yes.
So I have a lot more notes that I'm not going to
that you're going to save for next time.
That I could save for next time.
Yeah.
I can do wisdom part 2, and this will be the wisdom of the 12 chapters of Opar. Yeah. We could do that.
The wisdom of the 12 chapters of Opar?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes. Well, the reason why I wrote it this way is because it's extremely short. For example, chapter 1 in Opar is reality. And
done.
Chapter 1, the wisdom in that is the radical acceptance of facts that arises out of the primacy of existence. That's it. That's the wisdom. Chapter 2, sense perception and volition. What's the wisdom in that chapter? I mean, there's a lot of it. I'm condensing it ruthlessly, but Focus and clear reality-based perception. The validation of perception. What you see, you actually see. That's what it means to see. No, seeing perverts what's out there and gives it a human form. No, the fact that it's a human form of perception doesn't change the fact that it's the human form of perception of reality. Yes. Chapter 3, concept formation. Clear, conscious, conceptual thought. There is no clear, conscious thought that's not conceptual, not for human beings, not above the level of the perceptual. This is enormous wisdom. Use this stuff in your life. If you catch yourself functioning in ways that are not focused or not conceptual or not respectful of the primacy of existence, course correct. Chapter 4, objectivity. Well, integrate and reduce, or deduce and induce. Think clearly. Chapter 5, reason. Well, it's just rationality in practice. Faculty that identifies and integrates the material provided by man's senses. So use it for that. Chapter 6, man. Man's nature, the mind-body dichotomy. Well, you are what you is. Oh no, that's Frank Zappa. But it's true, you are what you are. You have a nature. And like all of nature, to be commanded, it must be obeyed. You got to respect your own nature. So
yes.
Be what you are and do that really good.
You have a specific identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 7, the good, ethics, the value of life, morality, self-interest. Well, your life is the standard of value because of what it means to value anything. Well, 2 sentences that I could talk for an hour on. But your life is the standard of value because of what it means to value anything. I said earlier, only you value, only individuals value. And that's great, because again, you can combine that into businesses and corporations and countries and nations and governments and all these great things because of all these individuals who are thinking and valuing. Chapter 8, virtue. Rationality, honesty, justice, all that stuff. Virtues are simply the kinds of actions which are necessary to pursue and achieve your values, both by the nature of a conceptual consciousness, go back to that earlier chapter, and, excuse me, while I get into wisdom, and the nature of human relationships. Mm-hmm. Oh, we talked about kindred spirits before, and that goes above and beyond just touchy-feely Anna Green Gables stuff, although that too. Chapter 9, happiness, in whatever form that it takes for your unique consciousness, your own soul. Whatever form brings you joy or passion or peace or equanimity. Chapter 10, government. Well, to think and therefore to live, you got to be free to think. That's it. That's all. Chapter 11, capitalism. A free market is an extension of a free mind. If people are going to be free to think, they got to be free. Sorry about that. I had to mute for a cough there. Where was I? Capitalism, a free market is an extension of a free mind. It just means like free speech. You got to have free speech, because if you don't have a free speech, you don't have a free mind. Same thing with markets. If you don't have free markets, if you can't figure stuff out and then act based on your conclusions, which is what a free market in trade is, then all you get is destruction. All you get is the hampering of human life. And chapter 12, art. Visit Cordair.com. Oh, no, that's not what I wrote, but it is what you should do.
You mean Quent Cordair Fine Art at QuentCordair.com?
Cordair.com. Cordair.com.
That's right. Art.
What I wrote was an Ayn Rand quote, one of my favorite Ayn Rand quotes. And if you ever found the Romantic Manifesto a little deep and you wasn't sure what the takeaway, this quote from Ayn Rand. Art is the indispensable medium for the communication of a moral ideal. Okay, that's not the whole story. So I go on in my own words, and for the experience of one. And that's more fundamental in Ayn Rand's aesthetics. And that experience of your moral ideal, that experience is necessary both as a model and as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's OPAR converted to wisdom in 12 simple steps. I told you it wouldn't take long.
Done. Well, Ian appreciates it. He says it's the best summary of OPAR ever, or at least the shortest.
It's the shortest. Now, of course, you have to actually read the book to validate all of that and to get 1,000 other important insights out of it. But my perspective tonight, again, is Objectivism as a wisdom discipline, which you would think any philosophy is or should be. But, sometimes we don't always think of it that way. Sometimes we think of it more as a way to win arguments, or even worse, to engage in politics. And it's very effective at that, but that's not what philosophy is for.
Yes.
Philosophy is, I left something out, and YouTube is holding it for review. I have to click show for Christopher Smith's comment, and sex is good.
Oh, yes.
Leonard Peikoff shares that story because, sex was not a big topic in philosophy. But he said, I asked Ayn Rand once if Objectivism had anything, what Objectivism had to say about the subject of sex. And he reports Ayn Rand answered, it says that sex is good.
So.
And it usually is. No, I mean, just kidding there. But yes, as an entire domain of human action, yes, it is.
Yeah, so for all of that, for your quick OPAR summary, the one big thing I took out of it is know that you have a specific identity as a human being who has a conceptual consciousness. And what I mean by that is know when you've had enough of the news, know when you've had enough of Facebook, know when you need some time to contemplate, to meditate, to journal, to write your representatives, to actually, instead of constantly spectating and observing and doom scrolling and all of that, know when you have to step away from all of that and enjoy a beautiful botanical garden in the middle of winter in Michigan. Know when you have to step away and go to the movies and see Zootopia 2. Know when you have to step away and read something from OPAR or Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology or something that Harry Binswanger wrote. Something useful, something philosophical, yes. Something enriching, something revitalizing. So know that you need to you need to know or act in accordance with your own identity. That's what it is.
Yes. Well, Robin says, know when you've heard enough about the Orange Man. Well,
yes.
That's one way to put it. And Gaming Nerd 666 says, even bad sex is better than none. I hate to say this, Gaming Nerd, but you are either very young or very lucky if you have never had sex that you regretted. Or maybe you're just not pushing your boundaries, but... Yeah. I know people say sex is like pizza, even bad pizza is good. So, okay, but maybe it's just my life experiences. If you've never regretted, I'm just going to leave that there.
Yes.
Enough of that.
Mm-hmm. For next time.
What I really want to end on is the idea of stops. I mentioned Satori moments, these moments, sudden flash of enlightenment, of wisdom, where you finally reach a point and you didn't even necessarily know it was coming, but everything changes and you have an epiphany and things will never be the same. I love the idea in The Fountainhead, and it actually comes up in Atlas Shrugged too, the idea of stops. And, Rourke, for example, after his first night, if you can call it that, with Dominique, says, Rourke awakened in the morning and thought that last night had been like a point reached, like a stop in the movement of his life. He was moving forward for the sake of such stops, like the moments when he had walked through the half-finished Heller house, and like last night. Now, if you know what happened last night between Rourke and Dominique, it's especially interesting that later on his yacht, Gail Wynand, Dominique's husband at this time, says, Howard, when you look back, does it seem to you as if all your days had rolled forward evenly, like a sort of typing exercise, all alike? Or were there stops, points reached, and then the typing rolled on again? Now, if you've read The Fountainhead and you know the sequence I'm talking about, you might not have ever connected those two, that Rourke's experience, his thought about stops in his life started with him sleeping with Dominique. And now, 2 chapters later, Gail Wynand is asking Rourke, or were there stops? And Rourke answers, there were stops. Well, did you know them at the time? Did you know that that's what they were? Yes. Now, this is interesting. I'd be curious if anybody in the chat has an answer to this. Gail Wynand goes on, I didn't. I knew afterward, but I never knew the reasons. There was one moment. I was 12, and I stood behind a wall waiting to get killed. Only I knew I wouldn't be killed. Not what I did afterward, not the fight I had, but just that one moment when I waited. I don't know why that was a stop to be remembered or why I feel proud of it. I don't know why I have to think of it here. And Rourke answers him, he says, don't look for the reason. Well, do you know it? I said, don't look for it. Now that, unquotes, that was interesting to me, that Rourke realizes that this important moment in Gail Wynand's life is not something that he should revisit, at least not at this time in his life. Don't look for the reason why that feeling that you were going to be killed and you had that self-assurance that it wasn't going to happen. Why not look back at that moment that meant a lot? So I always like to say that, Amy and I are trivia experts in the Ayn Rand universe. We have actually won officially sanctioned Ayn Rand trivia contests.
Yes, and we've won OPAR books for it.
We've got 12 copies of OPAR because we keep winning them for one reason or another. And this is one where I don't have an answer to the question, why does Howard Rourke say don't look for it? I mean, there's obviously something about that moment and about remembering that moment that would not serve Gail Wynand very well in his attempts to reform himself to become the man he could have and should have been. But I wonder exactly what that was. And maybe we'll have that conversation at some point.
I wonder.
But I do love this idea of stops, of points in your life that are full of meaning and value, of significance. That not everything that you do is as important as some things that you do. We're not egalitarian about our experiences. But it's also kind of fascinating. Later in Atlas Shrugged, Hank is thinking about his past, his journey, getting to the point where he now owns all of these mills that he's built, and all the difficulties that he went through and all the challenges. And he says these had been his stops, the stations which an express had reached and passed. He remembered nothing distinct of the years between them. The years were blurred like a streak of speed. And it's interesting to realize that a lot of our lives are maybe routine or maybe significant, but not meaningful, not telling you something about your life. And I think the more of those stops we can achieve, the better. And that would be the last bit of wisdom that I would have for tonight. Think about the stops in your life, the meaningful, the significant moments, the things that really not just mattered, but matter now, even still. And think about having more of those, about really taking these ideas, this philosophy, this wisdom, the Tao of Rand, and applying it as much as you ever have, and maybe even a little more.
Yes.
That's certainly what I'm going to try to do.
Yes.
So we got into current events. We got into philosophy. We had a bit of fun tonight. I intended the show to be a little more philosophical and a little less current events, but that's why that film yesterday, that idea of even if you can't fully explain it, why it's important to stand up for yourself, even if it means putting your values or even your life at risk. Applying your values to life is not as simple as, well, whatever's going to make me live the longest. And
yeah, I'll keep the shell of my body intact while I completely find the contents of my mind arbitrary, and I won't actually go out in the world and act on my values. That's not a good thing.
And again, I don't mean to suggest that it's as simple as take all sorts of risks or you have no integrity. It may well be that, again, you leave a conflict in order to live to fight another day. It's not that simple, but it is important. And going back to your experiences, Amy, with mindfulness applications, the important thing is that whatever you decide, you do it mindfully, you do it rationally, you do it with intention, and in a way which, if it turns out to be a stop in your life, you can look back and not be full of regrets or concerns the way Winan might be, having been brought to that point in his life.
Right. That
your stops can be like Howard Rourke's stops.
Yes. Yes. And I should say that, as Yaron Brook often says in his Rules for Life, life is risk. It's important to have calculated risks. It's important to have knowledge. It's important to understand situations before you get into them, like we were just talking about. So, yeah.
Even there, you figure out what is risk tolerance versus recklessness for you, make it work, live a life of passion. And with that in mind, that's it. That's all I got. It's been 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, and all that is left is for us to wish you, and I do mean you.
Yes.
Because we are addressing your individual mind. All that is left is for us to wish you all the success that you so richly deserve. I know that you richly deserve it because ne'er-do-wells do not listen to a show like this and certainly don't get through all 5 minutes of it. And that is why, in addition to all of that goodness, we wish you love.